Hey, it is your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today. And we're zooming in and focusing in on a great viewer question. And that was about really kind of when we talk about getting together with a family and how one part of a family seems to segregate or separate itself from the core of the family core. In other words, what family is about. Family is about belonging, is about familiarity, hence the root word of family, familiar, to be familiar with. And not to mention the familiarity with each other. I mean, you share a common bond, you share a last name, you share a lot of history together, and you've got kind of this collective consciousness within the group, which of course the whole goal of life is to kind of build and develop that. That's kind of the functional aspect of a family. Excuse me. But furthermore, and the question was really that of feeling closed off or closed out from one side of their family. In other words, there's always a sort of divisiveness, a feeling of competition, that there's always a win or lose. Excuse me, there's always a sense that they're playing hard to get. It's like the old, back in your teenage years, or maybe there's still some teenagers watching, there's always that one guy or one girl who is so hard to get. And they play around with people's emotions, and they make it very difficult. They become difficult people. They think this makes them more attractive, more desirable, more in demand. In other words, you should be so honored to have, time with me. Yet with your family, that whole sort of, winning people over, that whole game should be water under the bridge. Basically, this should be resolved. I mean, we are family. You can let your hair down together. You can take your shoes off, kick your feet up, have a glass of wine, have a glass of beer, have a glass of shot, or whatever it is you do. Sit out on the patio and listen to the, leaves blowing, whatever it is. It's kind of your family thing. Sit by the fireplace, make some stew, make a big dinner, whatever it is that your family thing is, and talk about old times and nostalgia and remember people. And it gives you that warm, fuzzy, kind of good-hearted feeling. What we call as love, the absence of fear. Basically a feeling of being comfortable and then seeing people as they get older, and then really kind of the nostalgia, and then feeling like, I will be there for you in your times, even in your bad times. That's what family is about, in sickness and health. This is kind of the root of the family tree, if you will. But then, we see, especially more, I would say now more than ever, we see the prevalence of narcissism. Not that it hasn't been going on for eons and generations and different cultures, etc. That is not even a point of contention. It's just that now we see that there are certain segments of society that are definitely kind of breaking that family bond. You can see the contrary in other families that are really staying together. They're shopping together, they're cooking together, they're very close. They might keep them living at home for a longer period of time until they're adults or they're married. So you see these very, tight-knit families, which they kind of shut out the rest of society. They just kind of do their own thing. They buffer themselves. But the question was, really when you get into, the problem, the difficulty, the tension is occurring when there's a narcissistic kind of branch off the family that's going out. And they tend to create a divisiveness, meaning a division, a separation, to divide, where you're kind of chopping off, and then we're kind of separating from the herd, separating from the pack, if you will. And so the issue then becomes that of feeling shut out. In other words, not being included, being very exclusive. There's an exclusivity that is created within the family. And then how do you really deal with this? How do you handle this with grace and dignity and knowledge and wisdom? Well, realize that, some families tend to gossip, chit-chat, talk about people behind their back. And as a good rule of thumb is, if you can't say something to someone's face, don't say it at all. And if you can't say something positive, it's better to say nothing than if you can't say something positive. So it's like these old adages which really hold true, which really, mental health, physical health, relationship health, or in your job, it's really, even sports, it's all about really getting to the basics. Everyone wants to, convolute it and make it seem so, difficult to obtain. But when you look at the basics, you really need to go back to that and realize that, when you talk about this divisiveness or splitting people off or kind of breaking apart from the family and feeling this grief and this loss, realize that the narcissist, that is what they're going to do. They're always going to sort of make you jump. In other words, they like to be in control. And then what that means for you is that they're going to trigger you, or you're going to feel triggered, maybe, whether it's provoking or provocative or not, okay? But they are going to trigger you into feeling kind of that wedge of pain, that thorn of pain, that sort of, sword to the stomach sort of feeling, where you feel really, really hurt. And it's a different kind of hurt. It's tinged, with confusion. It's tinged with disappointment. It's tinged with sort of a complex feeling of regret. And then, what did I do wrong? Am I not lovable? Is this why you're doing this to me? So it tends to be turned inward. Yet you want to also jump outward at this person. And then just, realizing that, this oftentimes is a result because they want to define themselves, through this, I want you to see and look at us for the specific qualities that we are. And furthermore, we are not going to respect. So the issue becomes they will do, but they won't give like in return. It becomes a very one-sided relationship. In other words, your natural tendency to love, support, be there for good and bad, and wanting to know about people and caring about them and developing a relationship, that's not what the narcissist is into. It's like you want to take them golfing, but they don't have a set of golf clubs. I mean, they don't have the wherewithal. They don't have the tools to sort of be that for you. And this triggers you because deep inside, you're thinking of reciprocity and why aren't these people kind of really like me? And that very fact, the fact of your uniqueness, oftentimes when you're around these very angry, aggressive, bitter, passive-aggressive people, which you cannot change, which gets more pronounced with time, the longer you stick around, the more of this drama you're going to see. If it's your family, I apologize. If it's your workplace, I apologize. Wherever it is, I apologize. It is very, very difficult to understand the why. So if you keep banging your head against the wall and asking, why is this going on? Realize that you're going to lead a cycle of futility, which means you're just going to be spinning your wheels asking this question. And furthermore, oftentimes it gets people stuck in the rut because you're trying to work harder at improving yourself or trying things, or furthermore, you're just, you're feeling so bad that you want to give it all up and you don't want to have any family, or you don't want to have any work, or it's not worth it anymore. So, realize that this is just who they are. It's not a reflection of you. It's a choice that they have made. It's an unfortunate choice to choose to be this way. But if they are narcissistic, competitive, and always, patterning this, then you have to understand either A, you can understand and accept it and say, you know what, I now get this. This is how they're always going to be. This is how I'm always going to feel. I can't change that, so I'm going to change what's in here. Michael Jackson, I'm going to change the man in the mirror, It's really, really down to the basics. It's looking within It's looking at the changes that you can make and just not be bothered by this. If you feel grief, loss, want to have a pity party, I mean, you might as well go get some streamers and some balloons, and cry your heart out. I mean, and just have the party and get done with it, though, because you're going to set yourself up for a lifelong struggle where it's just the tires are just going to get more and more worn out. You're going to get deeper in the rut, to give you an analogy, and then you're no longer going to be able to get traction. You've just worn out any sort of opportunity or suggestion that has been coming at you, like maybe we're just going to grow apart here. Maybe that's okay. Maybe they live, 5,000 miles away. Whatever it is, these flickers of solution have come to you, but oftentimes people are ignoring of them. Why? Because it means you'd have to take responsibility, and you have to look at, well, what is the payoff for me being so sulky, sad, angry? What am I really getting out of this? It's a big question, but it's a question I think you must ask, because without a doubt, unequivocally, you're getting a payoff by feeling down, depressed, angry. You're just staying in it's all about, you're blaming them, rather than you should really be looking at yourself and saying, okay, I need to take responsibility now for where I'm at, where I'm going, and how I'm feeling, what choices I'm making, and what I'm deciding to focus on. Because if you continue to focus on them and the problems, you're going to get more problems. It's just going to become so severe. Why would you set yourself up for this? Why would you continue to sabotage yourself and choose to be unhappy every single day? With every event, why would you make this choice? Why would you do this to yourself? You can make every excuse in the book, but bottom line, you're going to have to be the one. You're going to have to change the man in the mirror, like Michael Jackson says. And furthermore, when it comes to kind of feeling that shut out, and they're trying to, be passive aggressive, and, you're around this, and it's always, you see the unfairness, you see the imbalance, you see the dysfunction. It's like there's a big elephant in the room. That's really what it's about, when you are in a relationship with these types of people, is there's always going to be this, as they call, the elephant in the room. There's always going to be this looming issue, which everyone can see, but, doesn't see. And, oftentimes then you need to make your amends and, speak, maybe it's not such a wise idea to quote unquote speak your truth to these people, because then, you're trying to resolve something with people who don't feel that they need to resolve anything. So why would you waste your energy, even though it seems logical, even though, it seems like this is the thing to do, that's your logical, your logical brain is trying to make sense out of this chaos. And, if you're continuing to get that, then you need to ask yourself some different questions and just, realize, what is the payoff that I'm getting by keeping myself so angry and unhappy? And why would I continue to do that? And then furthermore, focusing in on other areas so that you do not feel so shut out. And you know what? You can't welcome them in. That's not going to always be the answer always. It's just going to be a very limited, stifled interaction if you do have one at all. It hurts to not be able to maintain a healthy and happy relationship with these people. But if you look at really, what you can have with them, it is best for you to either acknowledge that you're going to constantly feel this being kind of shut out feeling, that they're always going to have this distinction and you're not always going to feel included. And otherwise, it's not something that's just going to change, because these people, that is not their nature. It's important for you to realize that it has nothing to do with you. It's just how they are. You can't control them. You're living, basically it's an exercise of futility to try to wish that, want that, focus on that, let that go. Don't feel bad. Don't feel guilty. Don't feel less than. Don't feel hurt. It just means that you are strong, independent, autonomous, And it's time to learn to feel comfortable to focus on yourself, your strengths, and then reaching out from there. It is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. I hope that these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.